Hello and welcome to Polyglot George, where we talk about things that will help you improve your language learning. I am George Trombley. I have written the Japanese from Zero textbooks and the Korean from Zero textbooks, and I'm currently working on a Chinese book and a Spanish book here at the company, not by myself, but with team members. So I'm looking forward to those also. Today we're going to talk about how to effectively learn Japanese or Korean. Now, I only say Japanese or Korean, but this will probably affect many other languages. Japanese and Korean just happen to be the languages that I already know. But this will apply for all things. We're going to go through all languages. We're going to talk about, and actually all things maybe. We're going to talk about the specific question that I was asked by a user in the Japanese from Zero forum, or not forum, but chat room was, hey, I want to go to Japan and I want to know how to be effective when I'm there. And one of the main questions he asked was, hey, do I need to take a class? Should I take a class because I'm not made of money? Well, my first thing is number one, at all costs, take a class. Even if it's just one, you should try to take a class daily. Now, for me, it's been very effective to do it in the morning because when you're in Japan or you're in Korea, you don't have responsibilities. So if you don't have responsibilities, it's very easy to be extremely lazy when you're there because you're in a foreign country, there's no pressure from your friends, there's no mother and father, there's nothing pushing you. So what I would do is I take classes in the morning in Korea. I would do a private class in the morning, which is expensive, and then I would do a group class in the afternoon, actually right after the morning class. And then in this last session, I took another private Chinese course in Korea for some reason. But for me, I have money, I have means, so it's not a problem. If you can only do one class, and it's only even just for an hour, do it. Find a way to do it. Save the money, make sure that's part of your trip, because every day that will start your day off learning the language, okay? Another thing you need to do is on top of classes, you need to make a concerted effort to avoid English speakers. Now, initially it's difficult because your language skill is low, but a lot of people watching the Polyglot channel have higher level of the language already. And I know this particular user already speaks Japanese very well. He's been to Japan for an extended period of time. So he already probably knows this, but it's very easy to fall into friendship with foreigners living over there who don't know the language because it's just a nice escape away from speaking that language. It's exhausting. And it's not as stimulating as it would be in English because in that language you're limited to what you can do because you don't have all of the skill sets, all of the phrases, all of the grammar in that language yet. Okay. A third thing that you can do to make your trip to that country effective is, and it's very important that you have a class because in the class you'll learn certain things, and then what you'll need to do with those things is make a mini agenda with your speaking. So in other words, let's say you learned, let's give a Japanese thing. I just watched my a podcast I did on yoni. So yoni, it's 3 or 4 things that yoni can do, and I talked about all of them in one of my podcasts. Well, let's say that in that podcast, or not in that podcast, but in the class you learned that. Well, then you should make a goal the next time you're talking to one of your friends that day, if possible. You have to make a mini agenda to use that. And don't preface it. Don't say, hey, I'm going to use new grammar. Can you check if it's okay? Don't do that. Use it and watch the reactions. Have mini agendas. I do it all the time. It's so fun for me when I'm doing my mini agendas because sometimes the thing that I learned is awkward or it's only used in writing or it's something from a newspaper, but you still attempt it. You use it because that reaction gives you feedback, whether it be negative or positive. If they just keep talking and they laugh at what you said, if you said something funny using that grammar, then you know it worked. If they make a face like this, you still know what didn't work, and that helps you learn later on what does work. Then perhaps you can start a discussion about how to use that grammar properly. Okay. Now, where can you use these little mini agendas? Well, they're in Tokyo for sure, in Osaka for sure, in Seoul, in Busan. There are a ton of these language meetups. In the place where I stay in Korea, there's maybe 5 a week. I can go every day if I want to. And even if there aren't any in my little area, I can travel within an hour to get to a language meetup. You can go to meetup.com and find them. They're almost all free or for very low cost, and you'll get like 2 coffees or something like that when you're there. When you go there, keep in mind your mini agenda. And for me, there's a bunch of key things that I like to say to people. And because you're always meeting new people, I actually kind of like, it's like a comedian, right? You have material. And before you use it on the big stage, you use it on the little stage. You go to little clubs and you practice your material. That's what I do. There's a phrase, for example, that I do that I worked on and I got really good at it that I say to beautiful girls. I say, 혹시 대구에서 왔어요? Did you perhaps come from Daegu? And they go, 왜? Why? I said, 예쁘니까. 대구민인 줄 알았어요. Because you're beautiful, I thought you were a Daegu beauty. Because Daegu is famous for having beautiful girls. Sorry, I flubbed it a little bit. I wasn't in Korean mode. But I used that over and over. And initially it was bad. It didn't work out. People didn't understand what I was trying to do. But over time, my material got better. My mini agenda was able to be accomplished. And now I don't even think about it. I just know how to use that phrase. All right. Another thing you need to do when you're at these meetups, and when you're with friends, we tend to be like we are in American, or like we are when we're in American in English. We avoid controversial things, but I want you to talk about things that are controversial. Let's talk about religion. Let's talk about gun ownership, or let's talk about baseball. In Japan, you're not supposed to talk about baseball, apparently. But talk about things that people generally want to fight about, because that heated passion really helps you. I have some friends that I bring up religion to a lot because I hate religion. Sorry. Oh, did I upset you? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. That's exactly how the conversation will go. We're like, yeah, but I mean, why would you believe in a God that lets his children die? Wow. あなたはなんで神様を信じるの? Of course, Japanese people don't believe in religion for the most part, so it's kind of difficult. But you know what's a good topic to bring up with Japanese people? North Korea or Korea. And for Koreans, bring up Japan, because there's a lot of bad blood between them. Now, most Japanese people they don't care about Korea. They don't think about it that much in your daily life. But you can bring up, for Japanese people, bring up Takeshima. Or is it Takejima? There's an island, I can't remember what it's called, Takejima or Takeshima. And that island is being claimed by Korea and claimed by Japan. And Korea calls it Dokdo. There's your first really controversial topic. If you're talking to Japanese people, say Koreans own the island. If you're talking to Koreans, say Japanese own the island no matter what. And never ever call it Dokdo. Don't call it what they call it. Say you guys call it Dokdo, but I call it Takejima. Find out what it's actually called first. It's either Takejima or Takeshima. These controversial things are really good. Another thing I like to do with Korean people is I say Japanese people are a much better society. I don't really believe that, but I say it, and I can give solid reasons why. And then when I talk with Japanese people, if I were doing this, I don't do this anymore because my Japanese level is totally okay. Now I'm just myself. I'm not trying to learn anything anymore in Japanese, although I am learning things. I've been doing podcasts recently, and I've been really trying to up my level in Japanese, even though my level is very high. I realized that Japanese is important for me. Anyway, back to the main topic. If I were doing this with Japanese people, I would say something like, you know what? Japan has a very free society, but you know, this honne tatemae thing is so stupid. Honne tatemae. Koreans don't have honne tatemae. That's where they have like a face for people that they don't know and their interpersonal self. It's the inner self and the outer self that they show to the world. And I actually am not a fan of this, so I could totally talk about this and actually mean it. It doesn't matter. Try to get people riled and make sure in the end you make up with them. Now, some people might think that's manipulative. Damn straight it's manipulative. What's your goal? Your goal is to learn a language. People like that can manipulate the situation to help them out, they're going to do better in life. And I'm sorry if you disagree with me. You could definitely post down in the comments. And you could post in any language you want. All right, next thing. This is a very simple one. Many people fudge this up all the time. Speak loud. I'm guilty of this. I'm so guilty of this. I speak quiet when I have no confidence. Which makes no sense because your goal is to get them to understand what you're saying. And a lot of times what happens is you lower your voice down, and it's not that they didn't understand you, it's that they didn't hear you. And in most languages, when they don't hear you, it's the same as when they don't understand you. They say nani or morago. They say those things, which just mean what? What did you say? And you're thinking, oh, my Japanese is wrong. And then you state it wrong. Again, you state it a different way, and then you make your mistake. You were probably right the first time, but you weren't loud enough for them to hear you. So keep your voice up. Number 7. Now, this one is one I firmly believe in, and it's really just a way of embracing the language and putting it in your life in multiple ways. One way that I talk about it, I have a podcast coming up that I already did, talking about turning your phone, your Siri, into Japanese mode or into Korean mode. And I did a podcast on Ego Egg, where I teach English to Japanese people. And I was showing them how to turn their phone into English mode and then practice English. You can have Siri wake you up. You can ask her what time it is, what the date is, play music. There's so many things you can do. And if your accent isn't good, Siri's not going to understand you. And trust me, when I first started saying 몇 시예요 to my Siri, what time is it in Korean? Didn't understand me. For a long time, that was the first thing I got Siri to understand me with. And recently, my newest victory, it's a very simple thing, but getting Siri to call somebody. I never could say it right. I would say, right now it's 엄마에게 전화해줘. But I was saying it too distinctly. I was saying 엄마에게 전화해줘. It was too distinct. You need to kind of mellow it out a little bit. 전화해줘. It needs to sound more natural because that's what Siri is trained to do. So go into your settings and change it. Watch those videos somewhere on my other channels. All right. This is a big one. Number 8, people get frustrated if they don't follow this rule. And a lot of people quit the language when they can't do this. But stop trying to say what you want to say. Say what you can say. You have to pare down what you're doing. You can, if you really, really want to say something a certain way, learn how to say it that way. But the thing is, in the heat of a moment, you don't know that the word zebra is going to come up. Shimauma. You don't know. You don't know that you're going to be talking about a zoo all of a sudden. So you're going to have to use what you know. Let's say you don't know how to say shimauma in Japanese. You could just say shiro to kuro no uma. Nante yun desu ka? What do you call a black and white horse? Someone will get it. And you can just do this. You can even say like sen no aru uma. A horse with lines. Shiro to kuro no sen no aru uma. Whatever you have to do, whatever basic thing you have to say, because that's how you get good at language. You learn how to move around the things that you don't know. And the only way you can do that is say what you can say, not what you want to say. Okay? And that's when you're going to learn the new language. You have to remember that when you're living the language and you accept that you're not good at the language yet, but you're working on it, that conversation, like let's say your goal was to talk about zebras, right? But you ended up talking about how to say zebra. Good. That's the conversation. That's what it was. You didn't fail. You just had a different conversation. And you learned something from that conversation. That is what you're trying to do, right? Speak the language, right? Even if speaking the language is where you're building your understanding of the language, that's how you build your experiences. I happen to remember many things about where I learned the thing, because that's the experience. I remember I was walking with my girlfriend, my first major Japanese girlfriend. Her name was Saori, still my Facebook friend, 20 years later. And I remember I learned how to say sugiru in Japanese, which means too much, like atsu sugiru, samu sugiru. I learned it from her. I remember. This memory is at least 23 or 4 years old. That was the language. Not the language, that was the conversation. I don't even know what I was saying at that time. It was probably about the weather or about her parents being too strict or something. All right. Whew. Wow, this is a long one. 2 more. HelloTalk. I cannot speak too highly of HelloTalk. It's amazing. HelloTalk, when it first came out, was very buggy and it crashed a lot, but it doesn't do that anymore. I'm a paying member of HelloTalk. I paid for the extra service so I could have unlimited transliterations and unlimited, whatever they do, unlimited, I get it all now. I can't remember how much I paid, like $9 or something like that. And I list all my languages. I have Chinese, I have Russian, I have Japanese, and I have Korean as all languages that I'm learning. And they're each at various stages on the level that I can speak. There's a setting for that. And I get people talking to me from those countries all the time. So much that when I don't feel like studying Russian, I have to turn it off. Because a lot of people are like, privyet, privyet. And I'm like, not ready for Russian right now, and I don't want to ignore you. Okay? So go get HelloTalk on your phone and chat away. What I love about HelloTalk is the ability to record your voice and listen before you send. You can self-correct, and it's really important to know what you sound like, because you'll know, you've heard enough of your language that you're studying, you'll know that it's bad. And you can re-record and re-record, re-record. But do me a favor, don't give up, send it anyway. Send it with your mistakes, because a lot of times you're not as bad as you think you are. All right, this is the last thing. Don't waste your time on useless phrases and trivia. Don't. For those of you that are learning Japanese, I appreciate that you know 1 million kanji. I appreciate that you can say, I know 800 kanji. But do you? Can you do anything but trivia with that kanji? I don't know how many kanji I know, and people like to ask. I'm sure it's in the thousands, right? There's only 1,000. There's only 2,045 that Japanese officially know. I'm pretty sure I recognize more than 1,000 because I read Japanese for the most part without any hesitation, okay? Is there a kanji that I don't know? Yeah. You know, it doesn't matter. I've been learning Japanese for 20 years. It's never stopped me, ever. It's never stopped me. Because number one, I'm not reading a bunch of novels. If I was, then that kanji would not be trivial to me. I would need that kanji, but I'm not. There's a lot you have to learn in a language, a ton. Like shit tons of things you have to learn. If you get stuck on trivial things like the kanji for nautical mile, okay? There's a kanji for nautical mile. You waste your energy and you're gonna forget it anyway because you're not gonna use it ever. Unless you're constantly going through Anki or constantly going through something. Don't waste your time on stuff you're not gonna learn. And I've even gotten this way. Like if I'm talking to somebody and they say something that's interesting, I go, oh, what's that? I used to write notes, I don't write them anymore. Because I know if it's important, I'll hear it again. I'll try to remember it at that point, but I'm not gonna worry about it because I already know enough of the language. I know that I'm good enough and I'm getting better already. So if I hear that thing again, I know, okay, this is kind of maybe something, let me practice it a couple more times. And you have to know when to give up. Sometimes you're hearing a concept and you realize there's 3 or 4 concepts within that concept that you don't know. You're not there yet. So you go, you know what? I say pass. 감사합니다. ありがとうございました. 後で覚えます. すごいいいと思うんだけども今覚えられないですよ. Okay. 엄청 좋은 것인 줄. Flip to Korean all of a sudden. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to flip to Korean that quickly. 좋을 것 같아요. 좋은 것 같아요. 하지만 지금은 기억 못해. I can't remember it now. I can't remember that phrase right now, even though it's a good thing. Be okay with it. Wow, I was trying to show off and I sucked in Korean. It's okay though, right? I tried, right? Even though I made that mistake, I'm not afraid to make that mistake even on camera in front of thousands of people that will eventually watch this video. All right, that was it. Stop using, no, I brought up kanji as an example, but a lot of people will learn words. Like there's this German guy that I know in Korea, very smart. I showed him the connection of Chinese characters in Korean because it's not apparently obvious when you first learn because Koreans don't use Chinese characters. I showed him that and he got totally into it and then he overdid it. Now he's saying things like recessive gene, okay? And you don't need to know recessive gene in your everyday life. The only thing he does with it is a parlor trick where he says, oh, look at how smart I am. I know how to say recessive and dominant gene. Psst, whatever. You go ahead and do that and I'll be speaking what I want to say, and I'll be saying and understanding the things that I can do. All right, let's talk about it in the comments, some of the things that you do to be effective in learning so that other people can learn together. I love you all. See you all next on Polyglot George. Bye.